we are stepping up the level of our services. Our goal is to treat your loved ones with the respect they deserve. We are taking our services to new heights. We are stepping in a new direction. Step into the new millennium with Golden Gate Funeral, where service begins and never ends.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Undertaker, an open, honest look at your funeral service brought to you by Golden Gate Funeral Home and Crematory, with facilities in Fort Worth, Texas, Dallas, Texas, and Tallulah, Louisiana. I'm your host, John Beckwith Jr., and I'm joined today by the pastor, A. Lewis Eaton of the Church of Living God, Temple 280.
Blessings on you.
We have our chief funeral director, Mr. Kevin Haynes.
Hello, everyone.
We have our partner, our sister, and chief financial officer, Miss Carolyn Haynes.
Hello, everybody.
We have the pastor, M.T. Body Jr. of the St. John Baptist Church of Hillsboro, Texas.
Praise the Lord, everyone.
All right, today we come from Joshua, the first chapter, verses 1 and 2. Dr. Eaton, read that for us.
The word of God says, "Now after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, it came to pass that the Lord spake unto Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' minister, saying, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now therefore arise and go over this Jordan."
All right, today we're going to talk about dealing with the death of a coworker. Now, Pastor Biden, I know it can be very emotional and devastating when a coworker passes. Now, we've just recently dealt with that here at Golden Gate Funeral Home. One of our own, Miss Demetra Hall,
Yes, sir.
passed, and it was a shock to us.
Right.
And we had to deal with that as a work family.
Mm-hmm.
What were some of your feelings when Demetra passed?
Well, Brother John, when I received the phone call about her demise, I was shocked. I was speechless. You know, there was nothing I could say, and just memories began to come to mind immediately of the days and months and years that we've spent as co-workers together. And I was just blown away about it. I mean, when you called me about the information, I was like, really? Are you serious? Because, you know, I was just shocked about it. I couldn't say nothing. And even my wife, she was surprised because we would just spent Christmas Day with her at the house. So we were just really shocked about it.
So working in the funeral industry, Demetra working in the funeral industry, even when we hear this type of news, we're still shocked. We're still devastated. Carolyn, it can be very emotional, regardless what you do for a living.
Most definitely, John. And with me, it was a matter of disbelief. Demetra, you know, she had been out a few months, but still, you know, that's just not news you're expecting. Sitting there on the couch doing a little work, and you call, and it's like, no. But then you're right. We're not immune to death. And as we see and as we've seen these last few weeks, is that it does hit home.
Expected or not expected, Kevin, we still go through these shocks, this disbelief, this emotional and devastating feel. What do you think about when it's expected or unexpected? Does that really matter?
It really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you've been told that, you know, that they've done all they can do and that, you know, the demise is coming real soon to go ahead and make preparation, make arrangements, or if it's, you know, a sudden, you know, death. And
you still feel devastated. You're still shocked regardless of the situation. Pastor Eaton, dealing with the death of a coworker. If we say it's not easy as undertakers, this is what we do every day, all day. This is what we have prepared the public for over 5 years. And if we're that devastating, can you imagine what the public is going through when they're dealing with the loss of a coworker? How did it affect you when Demetra passed?
It was a shock because when I was told, I said, man, quit lying. You know, this didn't happen. We just talked about it the other day. And then we get this kind of word. It brings up feelings that you really thought you had, you could handle. And sometimes we have to recognize that we're human. And we have to get out of that role of being who we are and just let our feelings take its course.
Carolyn, we heard denial. We heard shock, disbelief. Some of the things we say and do when those things happen. I can tell you one of the first things that I say is, what happened? Yeah. We're taught better than that, right, Carolyn, but even when Everything you've been taught, you find yourself, those things just go out the window, Pastor
That's
Body.
right.
We find ourselves saying things like, you know better than to ask somebody what happened.
Right.
But that's what I found myself saying, unexpected.
An answer.
An answer. You called me with this devastating news. I need to know
What happened?
what happened. And Carol, that's not something we should be asking.
No, you're right, John. Of course, you train us to be able to handle all situations. But as Reverend Eaton stated, we are human. And because we are, and because of the feelings we had for Demetria and still have, those things just automatically come out. It's not even a thought process. They just come out. But as professionals, we have to turn it on and turn it off. But we still have to be able to express our feelings.
So Kevin, let's help the public. When you get that type of news, when we talk about the death of a coworker, someone call you and it's a shock, you're in disbelief. What should we say to that person?
Well, first of all, we've all got to come together and to address it. And then we need to decide, what can we do to help? What can we do?
So that should be the first thing.
Yes.
After we've gotten over the shock, and after we've gotten over the denial, and it is real, the next thing should be, what can I do to help? Right. Now, Pastor Body, we try to stay with a healthy relationship here. We try to divide work from personal and personal from home, things of that sort. We want to make sure that we stay healthy in our relationships. But we find ourselves crossing those boundaries.
Right.
Co-workers become family.
Yeah.
And most of us had a different type of relationship with Demetria. I know those who's watching probably have a different relationship with each person at their job. Some are closer than others.
Right.
How can we help the public with those boundaries?
Well, first of all, we have to learn that we still have a job that must be done.
Okay.
It's no disrespect to the coworker who's passed on that you continue to work. Really, it's a respectful thing in their honor that you continue to do the work. But at the same time, you do have to take time out to mourn and grieve for the loss of your coworker. And when we understand that death is definitely going to come to all of us, coworker, family member, we will understand that when it happens, we should be able to come together as one family, regardless of how close we were to the individual. But as a family at Golden Gate Funeral Home, since Demetria has passed, I see where it has brought us so much closer together.
Carolyn, the bottom line is that we're just going to cross those lines. The bottom line is it's hard to divide employee from family.
Yeah. Right.
I spend more time with my Golden Gate family than I do with my biological family.
Right.
I spend more time at work awake
Right.
than I do at home awake. Most time when I'm at home, I'm in bed and sleep.
Exactly.
But I spend most of my day at work.
Right.
So it's hard because my friends become my coworkers. My persons that I share intimate things with. We talk about our children, and at Golden Gate Funeral Home, we have an open door policy. So our children actually come and visit, and we all know each other very well. Right. We find ourselves crossing those lines.
Very much so, John. Me being kind of a stickler for work, let's get this done, and the like. Well, those lines were crossed with Demetria. One thing that came into play was because we both were mothers, and there were times that she had questions about some things that perhaps was going on or may go on. And those lines were crossed at that point because then I became a friend. I became a confidant, someone that maybe could help her because my children were adults and she was going through some things. So we do cross those lines no matter how you try to stay in a lane. Because, like you said, we're there too many hours a day. You see them, you're helping families, you're doing things. So you do cross that line.
It's not easy. Well, we can't just blow that off, can we? Chief, we just can't say, my coworker passed and things are going to be normal. It's never going to be normal again. And do you believe that grieving at the workplace is okay?
Grieving at the workplace is very appropriate. Again, we have those workplace relationships. They don't have to be just tight relationships, but you have a working relationship with someone. I had a working relationship with Demetria. I assisted her in the death certificate department, when she took on that task, and we actually even traveled together to Austin to some of the vital statistic meetings, and I got to watch her at dinner, calling and checking on her children. So my thought, immediately when I got the word, went to her children, because I actually know them and I watched them grow up because they were allowed to come, to the Golden Gate Funeral Home and visit us. And so my thoughts were immediately for them. But yes, it's very appropriate to grieve
at the workplace. It's okay to cry
Yes,
at
sir.
the workplace.
Yes, sir.
What we shouldn't do as managers, as owners, we can't limit our staff from grieving. Do you think we should have an appropriate place for them to go to, Pastor?
Yes, we should. And, it's set aside a few minutes that we could just reminisce about the young lady that left us. My mind go back to Michael. Those of us who was at the service and at the wake had an opportunity to speak, but there were some that wasn't able to come. And when we set aside, like you have set aside for us to do, have a place where we come and all of us just let go and, and talk and get it out, because if we keep it bottled in, it will hurt us. I used to hear people say, you don't take your job home. Well, with us, it's not a job, it's a ministry, and it's a family. And when one hurts, all of us hurt.
Pastor, it's not a weakness, is it, to grieve at work? Is it? Does that mean I'm weak as a man if I'm grieving at work?
No, sir, it means you're human.
Okay.
That you have feelings and that you have a heart of flesh, not a heart of stone. During this process where we have celebrated the life of Demetra, at work I have shedded tears. I've cried, and I wasn't ashamed of my tear shedding because she was a friend to me. She was a co-worker. Matter of fact, when she first came to Golden Gate, I believe I was the first one to take her out on the ride along. And we thank God that we had a chance to share some time together, some conversations together. And she was a very, very beautiful young lady, had a smile that would just light up the room.
So when she passed, you're supposed to cry.
Yes, sir.
And even if it's at my home, if it's at my job, in my car, wherever I am, it's okay to grieve.
It's okay.
So, Carol, we want to tell everyone who's watching, that is a normal process. It is okay to do so.
Right. And what we also want to tell John, the public, John, is that as owners, as employers, that we really thank you. You came in after she passed away and you informed the staff it's okay. I don't know what they felt, what they thought, because we're always busy. We're always taking care of our families. But you let them know. And we want the public to know, as owners, managers of businesses, to please allow your employees that time. You think you're going to have downtime if you allow them to do it. You're going to have downtime if you do not allow them. So you do show them that it is a family. All jobs that I've ever been on, it's been a family. So be a family at the time of a death of a coworker.
We cannot expect, Chief, productivity to stay the same. I don't expect the death certificate department to do the same production they would do if Demetra was there. I understand there is a grieving. I don't expect for my staff to be as sharp as they normally are that day, and maybe even days to come. So as owners, as managers, we need to be smart enough to know that productivity will and can decrease.
Yes, you have to be supportive to the coworkers, and you have to be supportive to yourself. And, they'll support you if they can see that, you don't have that rigid or stiff neck and that you're trying to overlook what has happened. So
you have to know that and continue on. Now, Pastor Body earlier, Pastor Eaton said, in their memory, we continue on. If this, in our case, Demetra, this was her ministry.
Right.
She loved funeral services. She loved being a funeral planner. She loved making arrangements with families. She loved making sure they were taken care of. Demetra handled all our services that went out of the country. She got all the permits. If there's an Undertaker listening, Demetra sold a Prometheum on last year. The very best there is. And she sold that service. And that type of person is going to be missed.
Yes.
That type of person, we just can't overlook.
You can't overlook it.
Well, what's your opinion on that?
My opinion on that must be is that type of person, you can't replace that person. But you have to keep going on and just think of the good times that you had with her and be able to move forward, and then saying, okay, and maybe sometime we might say, well, Demetra probably would do it this way, and then we'll get on off in there and just keep going.
And Pastor Body, with time, things get better.
Yes, sir.
When Mother passed, with time, things got better. when your father passed. With time, things get better.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
But what we cannot forget is that there are going to be certain moments
You're right.
that this is going to come back up. This is going to resurface. Holidays,
Yes,
birthdays,
sir.
things that Demetra
Yeah.
would normally do, things that she would be involved in. We understand the staff is going to have to take a step back.
Right.
And that might cause us back into that grieving process again. What do we say to those? Should we tell them to watch out for those special moments and those special days?
Well, we should just tell them be prepared, because we know anytime you begin to reflect of the good times that you share with someone who's no longer with you, they have a saying that it opens up old wounds. And the emotions of sorrow may come in. You may cry, but it's all right. And if you love them with any kind of love in your heart, it's okay to let that grief out. It's okay to mourn. It's okay to have your moment of memories, because you're human. You have feelings. If they meant something to you, you're definitely going to let it out. You're not ashamed. You're not going to be afraid of it. And all I can tell people is just know for a fact that as you go through life in your healing process, it may be years, months, whatever, it's going to come again.
And if it's 15 years down the line, the birthday is going to remind you of a person.
It's going to remind you.
If it's 20 years down the line, Christmas is still going to come, and we're still going to remember Demetra and you were together for Christmas. You're not going to forget that 30 Christmases from now, so you may have to find yourself back there.
Right.
So let's help the public, Carolyn, with appropriate ways to remember a coworker. For Demetra, we did a funeral service for her family and friends, but also a memorial service just for the coworkers.
Exactly. And that's a very good idea, because as Reverend Eaton said earlier, everybody may not be able to attend the actual funeral service. We are in funeral business, and we may have to service other families. So the memorial service that allows the entire staff that work with her to be there is a great idea, and we advise any company out there to do that for your workers as well.
We were able to get a memorial board up for Demetra in the admin office, right over her desk. The entire wall is dedicated to Demetra, her photos, and that really helped me as an individual. As I walk in there, find myself talking about Demetra and the other folks that's on the picture, and I can kind of laugh and remember the good times. Do you think that would work for any company out there that's listening?
That would be appropriate in any company. Decorating the workspace, just acknowledging, allowing people to come by, and just remember.
What happens is that person will be replaced at work. There will become a new employee that will be assigned to their job. How should we treat that new employee, Pastor?
We should treat that new employee with the utmost respect, not trying to compare them to Demetra, but just letting them know that, hey, we here for you, and the same thing we helped her with, we here to help you with.
That makes a big difference, doesn't it, Pastor?
Yes,
Quite
sir.
often people are still grieving, and they may look at that person as saying, you're trying to replace somebody. And that is not the case. They're trying to get a job done.
Right.
You're not here to replace anyone, and we don't want to make that person feel uncomfortable in that workplace. What do we say to the public? Help someone out that may be watching and say, listen, I just got a job, and the person that worked there before I did passed away. How should you handle that position?
Well, those coworkers that remain there should, as Pastor Eaton just said, treat them with kindness. Help them to learn their job. Show them the way. Be supportive to them. Encourage them. You're not taking anything away from the previous person who worked in that position, but what you're doing is really honoring them and doing what they would do in the event if they were still there. You're not hurting them. You're just really remembering them the best way how.
And the coworker should treat them very nicely. Carla, but if you're in that position, if you're the person walking into that, who should you try to be?
You should try to be yourself, because the employer hired you for your skills and what you could do and what you can bring to the company. So don't try to be the person that have passed away and you are now in their position. Don't try to do what they did. Just do the very best at the job that you were hired to do.
We can't forget, Chief, that her family is still here. We can't forget that there are young children left behind. And as a company, we have decided to do a memorial fund for anyone who has lost a loved one for Golden Gate Funeral Home. And it's in honor of Demetra. Do you think that's appropriate, or do you recommend that to other companies as well?
We certainly want to recommend that to other companies. It is very appropriate to do so. In this instance, I mean, we are talking, teenage children, who, they're going to need some help and need some assistance. So it's very appropriate to reach out and help them and contribute, to, whatever they need.
I can tell you this, Pastor. Let me tell you what helped me the most is that one of the things that we required at Golden Gate Funeral Home was that every employee do a will. Mm-hmm. And not only did I require it, I told them they had to give me a copy of it.
That's right.
So when Demetra passed, we were able to go to that file and find her last will and testament. We was able to find her wishes. We were able to find what she want done with money left behind, what she want done with her children. And that made a big difference to me. And it really helped me with the process. And I hope it helped her family as well. How important is it that everyone out there watching have their wishes in writing?
It's very important because no one knows you better than you know yourself. And when you put those instructions down in a will that saves chaos and confusion, and it helps the family to move on. A lot of times I've witnessed people who have had wills already written out. When things came up, whatever it was on that paper, whether they liked it or not, they went along with it.
Because it was in the deceased
wishes.
The deceased wrote this.
Yes, sir.
And now, and I know some that's watching may not know who we speak. We're talking about someone that's 35 years old.
Right, sir.
We're not talking about somebody that was sick for a period of time. She was not sick unto death. And when we're young, we start thinking that what those undertakers are talking about,
it's not affecting me.
it has nothing to do with me right now. Right. At 35, I don't need a will. Tell them why they need one.
You need a will as soon as you become of knowledge and realize you do have some instructions you need to leave behind. Okay. Especially in an event like Demetra, she had minor children. So she needed to make sure that she left some instructions on how and who's to care.
And she did.
How and who's to care for her children.
That makes a world of difference.
You don't have to worry about the judge getting your business now. Split them up here, here, and here. She left direct instructions. So.
And we're saying everyone needs to do that, regardless of age, regardless of health. Everyone needs a will.
Yes, sir.
Insurance, Carolyn. One of the instructions is my children need to go to college. That was her instruction.
Yes.
And there are funds set aside for this to happen. Carolyn, we can't say it enough. It has hit home.
It has.
Yes.
How important is everyone who's watching right now, make sure you leave some insurance for your children to live on.
Most definitely, John. Demetra just brought to light everything that we've been trying to teach the public for the last 5 years right here. So we encourage everybody today to pull out that piece of paper, write down your wishes, get it witnessed and notarized. So just in case, you don't have to leave here at 35. You can live to 70, but you have your instructions already there. Heaven forbid you do leave here at 35 and there are no instructions. There wouldn't have been anything left for her children. Her family would have been scrambling around, trying to figure out what should we do, how are we going to do it. And she solved that problem by doing her will, and we're asking you to do the very same thing.
Insurance makes such a big difference, Chief. We can't say enough. If you're going to leave some wishes, you need to leave some finances so your wishes can come true.
Yes.
Help me out with that. How important is it to have the finances there? Listen, we all have some wishes. We all have some hopes. We all even have some dreams.
Right.
But you got to have some finances to make those things come true.
Yes, money makes these things happen. So purchase as much insurance as you can afford, and then set that aside for them and leave instructions.
That goes a long ways. You have to leave some money behind if you want your wishes to be carried out. If you're going to have a funeral service, if you're going to be cremated, if you're going to want us to entomb you or whatever you want, you need to tell us. I don't mind sharing this. This is what Demetra told me. She said, listen, if you don't put me in anything else, put me in a vault. She wrote that down for me. I didn't have to guess what she wanted.
Right.
It's written. That's what we call a pre-need, isn't it?
That's right.
Let's talk a little bit about why should everybody tell us what you want?
Well, one thing, like again, no one knows you better than you know yourself. And when you put down everything in writing, in that pre-need packet, it asks you, you know, who you want to do your service, what songs you want, who you want to give remarks, all that's written down. And then only thing the family have to do is come in and just present it. They don't have to come in on the worst day of their lives and try to make some arrangements because they already been made.
Carolyn, we find ourselves very emotional. Right. Even as the Undertaker, even as the one who advised the entire nation on funeral services, we still find ourselves emotional. We still didn't want to make decisions. Most of the arrangements was made by co-workers. They was made by funeral directors. Right. That was very close to Demetra, but they were too emotional. But we just had to listen to Demetra's wishes. We just followed the instructions Demetra left, and it made it so much easier. Carolyn, we cannot talk enough about how you help the families emotional.
I'm telling you, John, her mother, when she came in along with her daughter, it was just so much easier for them. Again, they made no decisions. They didn't have to worry about trying to finance for her funeral. Demetra left everything in order for her family, and it made it a lot easier. We were able to talk about memories. We were able to laugh a little bit, where that could not have happened if she didn't have everything in place.
Chief, we can't say enough about it. Pre-need, insurance, and wills. Yes. Everyone needs that. And Pastor Body, what we've found, and we've talked about this before on the show, but when it hits home, we realize that there are people that are very close to their coworkers. Right. Many different types of relationships. And that's not something we can just ignore, that a coworker has passed. And we need to have some things in place as a manager, as a owner of a company, to make sure that our employees properly grieve. You agree with that?
Yes, sir. And we are, on behalf of the staff, I would say we are thankful for the Beckwith family allowing us to have that privilege to celebrate the life of Demetra Hall, who was a very loving, caring co-worker of ours, and giving us the privilege to be able to mourn her death as well as celebrate her life. And it really means something to us.
You are welcome. And remember to watch Ask the Undertaker every Saturday night right here on channel 47.2 at 7 o'clock p.m. and every Sunday morning at 6 o'clock a.m. on channel 21. And you all know my favorite radio show every Saturday morning from 10 to 11 o'clock a.m. and that's 9:70 a.m. on your dial. And if you can't get enough of us, go out to GoldenGateFuneralHome.com and you can watch us 24 hours a day. And of course, we have our own YouTube channel as well. May God bless you and may God keep you is our prayer.
We are stepping up the level of our services. Our goal is to treat your loved ones with the respect they deserve. We are taking our services to new heights. We are stepping in a new direction. Step into the new millennium with Golden Gate Funeral. Where service begins,